Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Welcome to E-commerce Conversations, a podcast by Practical E-commerce.
What is going on, Internet? Eric Van Holtz back again with another E-commerce Conversations. Hope all is going well on the other side of the Internet. On the other side of the Internet for me, Mr. Spencer Jan. Welcome, man.
Thanks for having me, Eric.
Yeah, the pleasure's all mine. Solo Brands.
Yes, Solo Brands. I like to say Solo Stove because that's the company I started.
Yeah.
It turned into Solo Brands. Well, I wouldn't even say turn into Solo Brands. Like, Solo Brands is a holding company that was created as it IPO'd, but it kind of birthed out of Solo Stove, which was the company that my brother and I founded years ago.
Yeah. So you launched 2010, bootstrapped with a $15K investment?
Yeah. I would tell people that's as much as we could get our wives to realistically commit to. And even that took time. It was there was requirements for us to hit certain things in terms of paying off debt before, the wives would let us do this. But yeah, we started out with very, very little. It wasn't by choice. It was by, that's all we had.
Now, were you guys engineers, or how did you get the idea for this miraculously burning stove? Because my friends have it and I was just blown away by the product.
Yeah, not engineers. We're tinkerers for sure. And I think most people are. And I think a lot of people, whether it's e-commerce or just entrepreneurs in general, you're solving some sort of problem, you're playing with something, you're making a better mousetrap, you're improving on something. I always tell people the best products are iterations of other products. I always think about Tesla, as innovative as they are, it's still a car and has four wheels, right? Still has a steering wheel. All of these things are still there. They just changed out the engine for electric motors. And so for us, it was a matter of tinkering. It was seeing what's out there. It was understanding what product we kind of wanted to dive into from a perspective of we love the e-commerce model. And so for us, it was finding stuff that we could sell online in terms of what would be a good fit, what would be a good product that would lend itself to being a good company that was D2C, that was all e-commerce. You dig through your passions, you dig through your interests. And having grown up in Canada, all we did was camp and spend time outside. And those were kind of our fondest memories and things that we enjoy doing. And so, my brother naturally was saying, what about in the camping space? What's there? And so we started digging around, and there's tons of different little camping stoves that people make. We watched a lot of YouTube and we played with different things, and we found, that camping stoves was an area that we could kind of unleash our creativity on. So that's kind of how it started.
Now, did you just start off with small ones that are easy to ship? Because you've got some hefty items.
Yeah, some big ones. Yeah. We definitely grew into a different market from where we started. We started in, one stove. It was really small, super lightweight, great for just one person. It would actually fit great into a pot. And so you kind of didn't have extra footprint. And we started, just with that one little stove, which we called Solo Stove, right? Because at the beginning, we didn't have this grand vision. And so we were like, Solo Stove, one great stove. That's all it's going to be, right? It's that's it. And so maybe that's a lesson in picking names for your brand. But we definitely thought, this is a great little thing to start off with. And we had this vision of we would make accessories for it. We make all sorts of different pots for it and things we could put in it. But we started out with the one. And that's kind of how it started, just one little stove.
Yeah. Now this is 2010, before Shopify really existed in any kind of fashion. Were you building your own e-commerce website on Magento, or is it Amazon Play?
Yeah, you're right. Shopify had barely got going at that time. And so we were looking around for different shopping cart platforms. And there were a bunch around. Back then, there was 3D Cart, Volusion, which I think are still around, but they're smaller players in the game. Magento was always there, but that was kind of a tough one, right? You have to know what you're doing with Magento. That's a tough one. But we stumbled upon BigCommerce, which was the platform that we chose. And I don't know why we chose it. I think it was more so just we were sizing it up against Shopify at the time, which it was there, but it was all its infant stage. And so it didn't have a huge marketplace. And so we love the pricing model of BigCommerce because they weren't charged. It was like, $30 a month. And that was it. Like they didn't take a percentage of your sales or they didn't, do all these other things. So we just liked it. It seemed like a good platform to build on. And so we kind of chose that. And I don't know, I think any platform is good these days. I think, Shopify is obviously great. BigCommerce is great. There's some other one, every platform has a great company that's being built on it. Yeah. But yeah, that's what we chose.
So you bootstrapped the business. At what point did you kind of decide to grow beyond a single brand and kind of multiple brand? And then what I really want to know is like this mindset of going towards an IPO, that vision of a brand aggregator, and like, what was that switch? What was that like kind of catalyst for that? And when did all that happen?
Yeah. So in order to kind of put context to it all, we exited the company in 2019. So my brother and I, we sold it to private equity at the end of 19, around September, late September of 19. And so from there, we sat on the board. We kind of transitioned to being in the company, to sitting on the board as advisors and, sitting in on a quarterly board meeting, looking at monthly financials and kind of being there to support where needed. A year after that, in 2020, we actually sold again to private equity. And that was a good thing, a huge opportunity and a much bigger valuation. So in 2020, a year after we were held by the first private equity, we sold again. And we took more chips off the table, but like the first round that we did, we rolled equity forward again. And so we still continue to retain a meaningful chunk of equity in this company. But after 2020, we left the board. So we were off the board, and the board was comprised of essentially these two private equity groups. And so they really ran the show from there. And so when you think about like IPO and heading towards that, it was really their vision and their strategy. And to be honest, a lot of it I read in the S1, the public filing that's made, every public company files an S1. And so in the S1, you can kind of read the strategy of what they're trying to do and kind of their approach to it. And to be honest, that's kind of where I get my information from it, because I'm no longer an insider and I don't have, I don't talk with them, or it was not my idea. I guess all's to say it wasn't my idea. And the reason why is because we exited prior to them kind of taking this path, which you see a lot in the e-commerce space now. And it's interesting to kind of see how it will all play out. Obviously, I'm still invested in the company as a passive investor, so I hope it goes well. As an investment, I want to see it do well. But it is interesting to kind of see this aggregator space, companies thinking about multiple brands and houses of brands, and what that story kind of unfolds to be, I think is to be determined for everyone. I look at the Amazon space because I played a lot in Amazon in the early days. And I don't know, like on the Amazon side of things, especially, I'm not sure how that aggregator space goes. It's really interesting. I wouldn't have seen that coming, but seeing it kind of roll out now, it's definitely interesting to see from the sidelines and kind of, I have my take on it, but right, it's just one person's opinion. And I'm the one who grew one brand.
Yeah.
And we found a lot of, I guess what I would say is I found a lot of momentum and growth and compounding effects of effort when I focused on one thing. And not only e-commerce, right? I think anything in life is the same, right? If you try to do too many things and get spread thin, you never are able to go deep and make gains in any meaningful way. And when me and my brother built Solo Stove, we actually had other things going on. We played with other brands at the very beginning. We had a number of them, and later on as well. But in order to make Solo Stove great, which it is, it's, we had to focus in on it and let go of some of these distractions. So what I know is kind of that. And that's kind of my anecdotal kind of experience of focusing heavy on one thing. So that's why I'm interested to see how, this aggregator space and roll-up space, how the chapters get written as it happens.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you in regards to strategy. We've done a couple of the same things, like even within Beard Brand, where we've this year we're actually cutting some of our products, having that focus of fewer SKU counts and more focus on the products that we have that are really performing well. Yeah. And one thing I'm curious about is, so you sold to private equity in 2019. Walk through that decision-making process. How did you know it was time to sell the business, and why did you choose private equity over any of the other?
Yeah. So about 2016 is when it was just still me and my brother. We didn't have any employees. We didn't have an office. We were working out of our homes, right? We had a lot of our fulfillment done through 3PLs and a lot of service providers that were doing a lot of the work that we needed done. And that's kind of where it turned, like we turned a corner in that this business that we created as like a lifestyle business, that was the goal. Was we wanted that lifestyle business. We wanted to be able to have time for ourselves, but also do well in our careers and kind of have a balance. And we were always seeking for that balance. And it was quickly becoming more than we bargained for because it was so good and so well received. And we had a lot of interest and great enthusiastic customers. And we loved all of our customers and everything that was happening in the space as a business. But it was just kind of growing beyond what we thought it was going to be, which was great, but it was kind of a surprise. And we had to kind of regroup and think like, what are we doing and what do we want out of this business? And how is this business going to help improve the quality of our lives? And we came to the conclusion that, if this thing grows bigger than what it was at that time, that it wasn't what we wanted. And so we wanted to pass the baton on to someone else and say, let's try to sell this company and maybe start again. And we knew we could with e-commerce. There's so many opportunities back then and now, but we said, we could try better at building that lifestyle company and kind of maintaining growth to a reasonable level to where, we would work hard, but also have our own lives. So in 2016, we tried to talk with people and see if our business was sellable. And the consensus kind of came back that it just wasn't a very sellable business and that it didn't have staff and employees and systems and processes and infrastructure and really something where somebody could come in and just invest in it and have it keep growing. And to me, that was a little bit surprising. I didn't know obviously much about selling a company, but it made sense after I heard it. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. I thought, it's a great company for me and my brother, but if we left, who's going to run it? Okay, that makes sense. Like I didn't think through it that far, but hearing it made sense. And that's when we decided to sell. And we said, okay, if we're going to sell, thinking about a customer as we do when we're trying to sell a product to a customer, you have to understand their needs and their wants and what are they looking for and address their problems and be able to provide them a solution. So when we now understood our company to be the product, we started to understand who the buyer was and understand what they wanted and what risk meant to them. And we knew we had to build a team and we had to get an office space and put together systems and processes and make sure that we're managing the people in a way that there's organization and KPIs and different levels of management. And so we spent from 16 to 19 building that and building a company to sell. And that was kind of our focus, putting this company together to where we could say, okay, we've spent 2-3 years enterprising this business to sell because we know who our customer is. And we've done everything. We've tried everything that we could think of to check all the boxes to make sure that this thing is a great product for the next person. And it was. I think we reduced risk drastically in all areas of the business for a potential buyer. And so when it was about that time to sell, it was kind of a merging between us having inbound interest versus us kind of getting to those numbers and to the timeline we kind of set to sell the company. And that kind of came together and we started to sell or put ourselves out there, and we were able to get some inbound interest and we kind of ran with it from there and presented to private equity. I think the majority of them, to be honest, was private equity. And the reason being is that strategic buyers, I think, tend to take a little bit longer. And we were kind of on this accelerated pace, and private equity just moves fast. And there was a lot of money in private equity. And so while I don't know, we didn't have any strategic offers, I don't know how it would size up against what private equity was offering. And yeah, I think the path of less resistance is probably private equity because there is so much money chasing so few deals and they're pretty aggressive. And with that, there's just not a lot of businesses and there's a lot more money out there. And so just supply and demand drives prices up, which means when you exit, you really do consider what that number is when you go exit. And private equity was kind of the vehicle to get us the highest valuation.
Yeah. So you felt like you got a pretty good valuation and they gave you some equity pass through as well to kind of just help with the transition, or what was the thought process of wanting to be involved in the business after you let go of it?
Yeah. So generally, maybe not all of them, but I think there's, any deal can go any which way, but I think a lot of them go the way we kind of went, which is selling the company. Obviously, we still believe in what we built. And even more so after we enterprised it, there's people running the business, there's managers, there's a CEO in place, there's a CFO in place. Like you really start to realize as a scrappy entrepreneur who kind of started in the garage, it's mind-blowing and kind of eye-opening to see, wow, a business can grow far beyond just me and my brother as co-founders. And you start to see all of that, and it's attractive, at least from an investment perspective, right? For as a lifestyle company, obviously not, but being an investor, yeah, I would put my money on it. And so when we sell the company, there's an element of, wanting a second bite of the apple, or wanting to see your equity kind of continue to grow beyond the first exit. And at the same time, showing that level of confidence when you go sell is really important, because every private equity group or buyer is going to ask you, why are you even selling this if it's so good? And part of that answer, right, is, well, I'm not going to sell it all, right? I'm going to sell you a majority stake, but I still want some of it. And to them, I think that's comforting, and I think that's somewhat expected when founders sell, because if you're cutting and running and you want every last penny out of it and you just want to be off into the sunset, there is, I think, a level of question that buyers will have, in that if it's so good, why wouldn't this guy just roll some equity forward and not sell everything, right? And that's why the term of taking chips off the table is used, because you're still staying at the table, right? You're taking some chips off the table, you're able to get some liquidity and be able to do what you need to do, or take care of yourself financially, but then have some upside left and still stay at the table and play. So yeah.
You talked about when you sold it, there are like certain things that you needed to have available for that buyer to be interested. Obviously, like SOPs, KPIs, a management team, like a real quote unquote business. What else are the things that they're looking for? Are they looking for any kind of growth? Are they looking for any kind of profit margins? Are they looking for any kind of channel distributions, or like percentage of sales within certain channels? Do you have any insights into that?
Yeah, all of the above, right? And I mean, people need to understand that when you're selling it to someone, they don't want to just have a great business and have cash flow, right? They want to grow this thing. Their whole reason for being is that they have investors who have given them money to grow it. And that requires growing the company, meaning have growth, like 2 or 3 times growth, right, within the hold period that they have, which might be anywhere between 3 to 5 years, or 2 to 5 years, or whatever is the general hold of a private equity group. And so they're going to dissect all aspects of the business. And a big part of it, right, and you touched on a lot of the things we did. We talked about team building and management and SOPs and all of that stuff. Yes, that's great for operations, but what are the opportunities for growth? And I think that's what they really dive into, is what does your product development line or a calendar look like? Like, what do you have going on in the pipeline that's going to, take us maybe into new markets? What are opportunities for channels, channel distribution, right? And have you left any meat on the bone for that? Is there opportunity in maybe retail that, yes, you're mostly D2C, but we're all coming to realize that omni-channel is pretty much, the way to go, and that there's lots of other channels that should and could be explored to create a great, well-rounded business. So, channel growth, international is always a big one, right? How much have you touched in an international, and what's that opportunity there? And not only just to say, yes, there's an international opportunity, but to then explore it and to be able to put numbers to show them. And you really have to tell the story and show them the path to get there and what it's going to take and how achievable it is. It's just that it hasn't been executed yet. And so there's a lot of talk of leaving meat on the bone. And so all of those facets are, right? International expansion, channel expansion, product line expansion, market expansion, right? So you're talking about when we first started out and we had camp stoves, we had in 2016, when we decided to sell the company, we had thought about, okay, well, what is the product line going to look like? And not only what is it going to look like when we go sell, but when we go sell, what are we going to show them what it looks like after sale, right? And where are we going with product? That really has to kind of be part of your story. And so being able to bring in-house design, right? Hiring industrial designers to then work on building out your product development calendar and be able to show some of that stuff was super important. And all of that was very calculated. We launched on Kickstarter our first fire pit, which was Bonfire. And we did that in 2016 when we realized that, hey, we're going to hunker down and grow this thing so that we can sell it. And that was great because it proved that, yes, we are accepted in this market, that there's a product market fit there. And that takes us into this new market. And that was part of I think the opportunity for sure was, because as great as camping stoves are, there's a small market for that when you compare it to the backyard space of every household in America, essentially. So yeah, all of those things, there's probably a lot more that I'm missing off the top of my head. But I mean, even, bringing in fulfillment in-house, Solo prides itself on that because we made the shift from 3PLs to our own in-house fulfillment, building out a warehouse, bringing in racking and forklifts and the whole team of people to be able to fulfill and create a customer experience that's good for our customers and be able to reach customers quickly by diversifying, our fulfillment centers across the nation. So all of these things, right, it's reducing risk. If you really think about it, it's how do you create something that's a no-brainer for anybody parking money on your company, saying, I just want to park money and I don't want to operate your company. I want you to keep running with it, but I just want to tell me where you're running to and how you're going to get there. And if you can create that and have it be reasonable and measurable, and it's a low risk investment with a lot of upside. And that's what they're looking for.
Yeah. Now, a couple questions I have, like, let's say someone's not selling on Amazon. They want to sell to somebody else. Would it make more sense for them to figure out how to get traction on Amazon first? Or would it make sense for them to be like, hey, here's the upside. We haven't even touched Amazon yet, but this is what we project the potential to be.
Yeah, I think the latter is probably what I would gravitate towards, because actually part of our assessment of risk for a buyer is that they don't want a business that's heavy in Amazon. Unless you're selling to an Amazon aggregator, that's all they want, right? And so for us, building the company and understanding what they want, we knew that they wanted, having talked to some of them, we knew they wanted companies that weren't heavily, they didn't have a high percentage of revenue coming from Amazon, because Amazon can be tricky, right? We've all sold on Amazon and we all know the pains of selling on Amazon and how quickly the lights can get turned off for reasons beyond our control. And so I would say, for me, I think the best brands are built off of Amazon and use Amazon as a sales channel for those consumers who are searching them out on Amazon, because that's their natural shopping habit and their go-to place to find and buy whatever they want to buy. And so I think brands that do well are brands that are built off of Amazon, because you can't really build a brand on Amazon. I mean, everybody always talks about it, and you can find all these, podcasts or YouTube videos on how do you build a brand on Amazon. To me, it's like an oxymoron. It's like you can't. Like, brand and Amazon are like two different things, right? Because Amazon wants commodity. They want to make things commoditized so that they drive the price down, and drive the price down. They bring in more people, they bring in more sellers, and that cycle keeps going, right? So to me, a great brand is built off of Amazon. And yes, there are opportunities to use Amazon as a strategy for revenue in a controlled way. And I think it's up to the entrepreneur to kind of build that strategy in so that they can present themselves to a potential buyer saying, this is how we think about Amazon, and this is the strategy we're implementing, and this is how we see it going forward. And I think that's a good way to do it. So, I think Amazon is a necessary evil for most companies, but it's figuring out and being strategic in how you approach that integration with the rest of your business. In terms of when you take it to go sell, you're able to articulate that in a way that, again, is low risk for the buyer and maybe potential upside. Like, maybe that potential upside is like, Amazon, this is our strategy, but we haven't touched international, right? And as their international plan and strategy involves a little bit of this Amazon as well, and that's an opportunity, low risk, some potential upside. So,
yeah. Now, you had kind of like a front row seat into the company doing an IPO. I don't know, at that point, were you pretty disconnected? How involved were you during that process of the IPO? And, kind of walk me through what that was like.
Yeah, so I wasn't involved with the process of taking it IPO. Obviously, at that point, we weren't even on the board. And so we knew it was happening, right? Because as equity owners, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff you have to do. We obviously needed our M&A lawyers spooled up and being able to represent us and make sure that we're plugged into the meetings that made sense, and understanding what this all means and how, it's a very complex structure. And I'll be honest, I don't understand, all of the kind of structures and corporate structures that have to be created to IPO. So we were very much in the backseat and kind of just along for the ride. But, it was fun in that we got to go to New York. We got to go to all the festivities and kind of the events that happen on IPO day. I got to go up to the podium and stand up there as they rang the bell and kind of walk the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, which was really fun. And be able to see kind of what we built from this garage and being able to see it on Wall Street plastered all over was definitely a surreal experience. But yeah, our involvement was very limited. It was essentially talking with our lawyers and understanding what parts of it pertain to us, what did we need to be aware of, what documents needed to be signed, and being able to kind of follow it along from that perspective as an equity owner. But the due diligence and all that stuff, I have no clue how it actually happens. It's a very complex thing that's definitely above my pay grade.
Yeah. DTC is the stock ticker that you guys have. That's a good one, huh?
Yeah, I think they're kind of all in on their mission, and they have a capable team, and I'm hopeful that they'll execute on their plan. So yeah.
So let's, you've sold the company, you're off the board, you're kind of, rolling in money, I assume, or more than you had in 2010. And what are you doing now? Like, what's the vision? What's the fire? Like, how are you going to continue the drive? Is there another business that you want to launch, or?
Yeah, I love that you put it that way, because it is truly that. After exiting, to be able to find the fire and find what you're excited about and what gets you out of bed, I'll be honest, it's tough, right? When you don't have to do something, sometimes it's hard to get motivated to do it. And you start, I've had those moments of self-reflection of like, I really have to figure out what's going to motivate me, because when kind of money is taken care of and you're financially free, you really have to dig deep and see what's meaningful for you. And I spent a lot of time doing that, right? It was COVID. And so that was kind of a funky time, and I had a lot of time to reflect. But what I find fulfillment in is really meeting cool people like yourself. Like, I was ecstatic about you reaching out, because I was like, this is awesome. Like, I'd love to hear your story and be able to flip the table one day and be able to understand how you built your company. I get a lot of fulfillment from learning from other people, but I also get a lot of fulfillment from helping other people and doing it in a no strings attached kind of way, because, fortunately, and I count my blessings every day that I'm able to do that. And I don't have to constantly think about how do I put food on the table and, how do I turn a profit on what I'm doing. Now I really get to focus on what do I want to do, and I can go all in on that. And I think over time, if you stay passionate and you work on something hard, I think profits come in weird ways. Money will kind of show up. But what I focused and kind of turned my attention to was helping other entrepreneurs, because I just know how hard and lonely the journey can be, and how confusing some of the advice out there is, especially when people have agendas to sell you something or to sell you a course or to get you signed up for something. And, you're signing up for some sort of report, and lo and behold, you're in their funnel, and all you start seeing is all their stuff all day. And so I feel like I have a sense of like responsibility to give back to the entrepreneurial community, to support guys that are coming up and trying it, because I think it can be life-changing. I know it can be life-changing. I mean, it was life-changing for me, and the ripple effect of this company, there's good things that have come out of this company that I don't even know of. And so I love entrepreneurship because of what it can do for people and for that ripple effect in society. And so I feel like a sense of responsibility to give back. And I've done that by starting a YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to find me on YouTube, you can just look up my name, Spencer Jan. And I've started putting out videos to try to share what I know and share those things that might be helpful to others. And I've started to do that. And I find a lot of enjoyment through that, because I, one, get to help people, and two, I get to meet a lot of people through it. I've had endless amounts of emails come in of people wanting to chat or to get advice. And I try to do my best to kind of stagger my time and try to address. It's quickly getting to the point where it's hard, because I could fill up my entire week just talking to people in 10-minute chunks, and I could have plenty of people line up to do that. So I'm trying to figure out a way how to, in scale, help more people. So I've thought about creating grants where I can just be able to, in perpetuity, give money away to help entrepreneurs who have great ideas succeed and give people a chance to kind of grow. I've thought about contests or, all sorts of different ideas to kind of help other entrepreneurs. So that's kind of what I've been focusing on and how I've been trying to play with it. And plus, e-commerce, we've done it for a decade. And so it's nice to change away from that and start something different and be challenged. And getting into the creator economy, I'll tell you, is challenging for me, because I've never been one to kind of put myself out there. And so learning those skills and being able to kind of hone messaging and understand how to tell a story better, I understand how to keep people's attention better and be able to provide content that is meaningful has been challenging. It's not as easy as you would think, but I've enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's content is a completely different space than the operations of an e-commerce business. So you don't foresee any future e-commerce businesses on the horizon. It's more of, kind of like this investor, mentor, content creator kind of lifestyle for the long term, or just for this period of time in your life?
Yeah, I guess I'll never say never, but at this moment, I don't have any grand ideas in terms of starting at the next e-commerce physical goods brand or product. I think I'm pretty content doing what I'm doing now. It's a lifestyle company that I've always wanted, and I'm able to kind of regulate my time because I know where growing a high growth company, like if I do something in terms of e-commerce, I kind of know the path it takes. And we kind of fell into a great business by accident and it turned into it. And I know that if I did it again, it would kind of run that same route. Now I know I could probably do better in hiring earlier and finding managers to kind of free up my time. And so that's why I kind of never say never. But at this moment, yeah, I'm kind of just focused on creating content, helping others, and trying to figure out a good scalable solution to that so that I can impact more people. And I think that's what I'm more motivated by is impact than profits.
Sweet. Where can people reach out to you? Obviously, your YouTube channel, Spencer Jan. Anywhere else? Are you on Twitter or?
So yeah, I'm not heavy in any other social networks other than LinkedIn. So if anybody wants to add me on LinkedIn, that's kind of where I spend the time I do on social media. I just spend it in LinkedIn and then on YouTube as well. So anybody can also reach me by emailing me. They can email me at spencerjan@gmail.com. So if they want to reach out by email, they're free to do that. And love to connect with any entrepreneurs out there and be of help any way I can.
Sweet, man. Well, thanks for being on the show. It's been fun hearing your journey and what you've been able to build and kind of go through and the pathway you have. I resonate a lot with the way of understanding that balance of really like that bootstrap lifestyle and the sacrifices that come with a business that maybe is a rocket ship, and we're not all ready for that ride.
It's a good one. Great journeys. Thanks for having me on, Eric.
Yeah, sweet. This has been another e-commerce conversations. Hope you guys pulled a nugget out of here. I did, as always. Cheers. Keep on growing.